Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside by my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media. We are at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Well, the college football playoff semifinal games are over. Notre Dame beats Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Ohio State beats Texas in the Cotton Bowl. So the national championship is set. Next Monday in Atlanta, Georgia, 8 seed Ohio State takes on 5 seed Notre Dame. As it stands right now, the most expensive ticket in college football playoff national championship history. So we'll dive into that. We'll talk about those games. Some big news out of Athens as it regards to the transfer portal. Again, this time going out, not going in. Of course, we will discuss that as well. But first things first, Jake Fromm, what's up, man?
Yeah, man, doing great. Back in Detroit, spent this weekend at home, you know, because we got that luxurious bye week when you get the number one seed. Got home, got to spend a little time with family. It was awesome, man. Back here, back to work, getting ready for these NFL playoffs. But I'm also kind of sad at the same time, man. The college football playoff is kind of coming to an end. That world's almost done. Man, it's like exciting and also kind of sad at the same time. But, man, can't wait to dive in and talk about it.
Yeah, it's a special game for you. The Washington Commanders beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday night. So the Commanders coming up to Detroit. You obviously have spent some time in the Washington Commanders organization as recent as this past spring. Yep. So they're coming up to take on the 1 seed Detroit Lions. Full disclosure, my best friend from high school, Tommy Donatel, is the secondary coach for the Washington Commanders. So I got my podcast partner, a DGD, Jake Fromm, on one side, my best buddy from high school on the other side. It's going to be an awesome game. There's no doubt about that. But you got to come back home. Obviously, we dealt with some snow in the great state of Georgia. I think Athens got a pretty good amount as well. But now you're back up in Detroit. And as you said before we started taping, it's like a winter wonderland up there right now.
Yeah, man, it's snowing here right now, and Athens was crazy. It's snowing in Athens. It's weird driving down the roads. I mean, you're seeing snow in places you've never seen snow before, so it was a little bit different, but it was awesome. Got to hang out, see some people, got to hunt a little bit, duck hunt in the snow, which was awesome. See some family too. So all around great weekend, and come back up, more snow, more cold weather. Just gonna ride this thing out, baby.
When it snows, is it a better time to duck hunt? I mean, educate me on that. Do you want to go hunting when it's colder, when it's snowing? Usually when it gets colder, the deer are out. I know that, but it's not deer season right now.
Yeah, no, I think deer season's kind of waning off in Georgia. This may have been the last weekend for it.
Oh, wow.
Love duck hunting. I mean, in theory, the colder it is, you should have a push of migratory ducks coming down, having more ducks flying. So in theory, you'd have more ducks, but also when it's cold where you're at, the ducks that you have could also leave and go somewhere else too. So it's just kind of sometimes you really luck up into it. But yeah, man, had ducks in places we went, had a good time and shot.
Did you take any down?
Oh yeah. We had 2 really good mornings. I got to hunt with my dad, my 2 brothers. So it's just cool, just us. It was just, man, it was cool. You don't get to kind of have those times back and get to spend with them, and we enjoyed the heck out of it.
Okay, so you traveled back to Detroit. You obviously got to enjoy the bye week back at home. You said flight was delayed about an hour. Obviously, a big pushback from the winter storm that came through Atlanta. How many times do you get stopped at the airport? I have no idea. I mean, I would assume you're a pretty recognizable guy. There's a lot of Georgia fans that are inside the airport. I'm going to say you got said hello to or a go dogs 4.5 times.
Dude, honestly, the airport's so weird. It's hit or miss sometimes. Like sometimes it's all over the place as far as, it's just one stop after another, saying hi, go dogs all the time. And then sometimes, man, you're riding through, it's a breeze. Everybody's too busy and worried about what they're doing. So I don't know. It's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 0. This time was one of those 0 times. Everybody's so mad, and because all the flights were getting delayed, everybody's just kind of dialed into what they got and got their own problems. But there was a lot of I think I saw a lot of Bills people traveling. And then I saw some other team. I can't remember who it was, but maybe Broncos traveling too. But man, Atlanta Airport, wild place.
Yeah, not the best place to be when you're having to deal with a bunch of weather issues. Hit or miss, as Jake Fromm says. You know what else is hit or miss, but we prefer it to be hitting a lot more than missing?
That's right.
of course, your Prize Picks slips. This episode of Punt and Pass presented to you by our awesome partners over at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today, right now. Use the promo code PUNT, P-U-N-T, PUNT. When you play your first $5 entry, you get instantly $50 put into your account, win or lose. Promo code PUNT. Download the Prize Picks app right now. Go to prizepicks.com or go to the App Store or the Google Play Store. Use the promo code PUNT. Tell a family member, tell a friend. It's the #1 daily fantasy platform in the country. There is no second place. It is Prize Picks. Simply the best, easy to use. Pick between 2 to 6 players. Predict if they will go more or less in their stat projections. You can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. Your first $5 entry, you instantly receive $50 win or lose. Huge shout out to Prize Picks. Okay, so big news broke over the weekend. A couple of weeks ago, Jake, Georgia quarterback Carson Beck announced after his injury in the SEC championship game, hey, I'm going to the NFL draft. I think that was probably common knowledge at that point. We've talked about it a bunch on this podcast. He's got all the intangibles that an NFL team will be looking for. Of course, the UCL injury probably set his draft projection back a little bit. But he changed his mind over the weekend, and he announced that he will be taking his name out of the NFL draft, that he will be entering into the transfer portal, and it took about 15 hours for his destination to be named. Of course, he was linked closely to the University of Miami, where his girlfriend, Hannah Cavender, is a basketball star and an NIL star as well. A TikTok video comes out on Saturday of him with his girlfriend throwing up the U. He will be attending the University of Miami and playing football for the Canes this fall. Reportedly, his NIL deal is between $3 and $4 million. I have questions, thoughts, concerns around that figure. We can talk about that. But, Jake, I think the bigger thing here is that probably he had some commentary with people close to his camp that said, hey, your draft stock coming off this injury might not be where you want it to. Let's see what we could command in the transfer portal. And clearly he's going to be getting paid more than he would be paid next year in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's very, smart by his camp and his part of going out. Let's just test the market, see what we got. He announced publicly when you kind of go through that process of entering the NFL draft, you got to submit, form and kind of what I guess once that happens, it's pretty much over with. There is no going back. Just hadn't quite got around to that part yet. Why submit a form when there's time? Things can happen. So very smart by him and his camp, and they went out, tested the market, and man, got a very nice whopping number. And it's really, really tough to turn that down. Sure, the signing bonus probably wherever he would have gotten drafted would have been high, but as far as base salary, it's not going to be $4 million of what he's going to get at the University of Miami. So, hey, take it and improve your draft stock. And if you don't, I mean, you're probably in the same position anyway. So kind of no harm, no foul. Let's go take it and let's get another year.
Yeah, interesting for sure. I mean, I think the official date to be stuck with your NFL draft announcement or to put those papers in, as you said, go through that whole process was February 7th. So still plenty of time for anybody who's made this decision. Funny enough, a year ago, Cam Ward announced that he was going into the NFL draft and then backed out and said, you know what, I'm going to put my name in the portal. He ended up at Miami. That seemed to work out pretty well for him. He's projected as probably a top 5 pick. But Carson Beck, coming off this UCL injury, it's an interesting situation. Clearly, going through the NFL draft evaluation process, he would not have been able to partake in really any of the workouts to where NFL teams are going to put you through certain throwing trees, route trees, want to see what you're capable of, want to test your health and wellness as far as how you're going to be as a football player. So that would have knocked him down a little bit as well. Take the girlfriend. That's obviously good and fun to talk about when it comes to social media and stuff. But this reported amount of $3 to $4 million, let's just do some basic math here. Okay, everybody knows that this June, if things go as planned in the courts, universities themselves are going to be able to pay student athletes. I believe the maximum amount any university can pay is $20.5 million to all of their student athletes. Now, clearly, the lion's share of those payments will be going to football and men's basketball, as those are the revenue sports that create revenue for the athletic department. But just say he's making $4 million from the school, okay? and the cap is $20.5 million. I don't know of any school that would pay 20% of their salary cap to just one student athlete. In the NFL right now, as it stands, around $45 million is the going rate for a top tier starting quarterback in the league. Jake, that equates to about 15% of the salary cap. Then you're able to sprinkle it around to the rest of your team. I just have a really hard time thinking he's getting $4 million from the school. Now, could they be piecemealing this together with some booster dollars, with some donor dollars, with some marketing dollars? Sure. But last I checked, $4 million is a tremendous amount of money. I'm not downplaying what he's making. Clearly, he's making a bunch to say, I'm not going to the NFL. I would just say hold your horses on the reported $4 million figure.
Yeah, and I'm in a very similar boat as you. I think it's flashy and it's big and it's a huge number and it's going to get a lot of clicks. Could he make $4 million? Sure. I think there's an argument to be where he's worth $4 million for that team and that program. And there's also an argument where, just like you were saying, of being, over 20% of a team's cap, is a guy worth that? I have
a guy coming off a UCL. He can't even throw a football right now.
I have no idea. They tried it with Cam Ward. They were so close. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They should have been in the dance. They were so close to the finish line of just getting in. Maybe they think this is what they need to do to get over that hump. When you go and you sign a big quarterback, then other pieces start to follow as well. Maybe that's what they're thinking, recruiting the whole nine. Hey, I have no idea. Like you said, there's probably some piecemealing going on into this number. Maybe not just straight allocation from the funds from the university.
Right.
But hey, if it's $4 million, I'd love to see that tax return at the end of hey, did he actually get what they agreed on? I'd love to see it, but man, the going rate for college football quarterbacks just seem to be going up and up and up, and the same in the NFL as well.
Yeah, and look, the golden rule is guys don't talk about other guys' wallets, right? You don't talk about other people's money, but this is a new day and age. And all I'm saying is, in this new NIL era, just beware of what you believe. Another thing that became almost an instant headline as soon as that $4 million figure was announced was, think about what some of these rookie quarterbacks are making in the NFL. Jaden Daniels just won a wild card game. His salary is $795,000 this year. Bo Nix just had a great rookie campaign. He's making $795,000 this year. So is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't have the answer, but you know what? God bless him. Good for him. If they're willing to pay it, go get it. I'll be interested to see how his recovery goes in what it looks like for him getting ready for the 2025 season. Obviously in the ACC and at Miami, he's going to have a good opportunity to put some great stats up. I saw a couple of Twitter threads or X threads, whatever you want to call them, over the weekend, and it was like a montage of all these dropped passes that Carson had to deal with really over the last year and a half. There were some huge chunk plays that did not go on Carson Beck's stat sheet from receivers dropping wide open passes way down the field that would have gone for touchdowns. So his, statistical history at UGA definitely could have been padded to a sense. But I guess the question I want to ask you is, what will his legacy be at Georgia? So many people, especially, let's just stick with the quarterback position, guys like yourself, guys like David Green, guys like DJ Shockley. I mean, Stetson Bennett, is in a realm of his own. Is he going to go down as a DGD, as a damn good dog? This is a talking point among the fan base. And for whatever reason, Jake, it's a house divided at this point.
Yeah, thanks for asking me, that hot topic conversation piece. Man, I think Carson's legacy, obviously you always want to end on, good terms. But I saw where Brandon Adams tweeted, what's the qualifications for a DGD, leaving it better than he found it. I think he did some really good things there for the team, man. And he continued to keep the team at a very high level nationally as far as competing and winning games. And so, man, I think Carson's a good football player, a good quarterback who will be remembered.
Won a lot of games.
Yeah, won a lot of games. It's just going to kind of be dependent on how this Miami thing goes. I don't know. I wish I had a better pulse from people in the locker room, in the building. I've been so just ingrained of what I'm doing, up here and going to win a Super Bowl. I hadn't kind of dove into that. But yeah, man, I like Carson a lot. I think Carson's a good dude, but obviously in the just this new realm of NIL, social media, all this, everything's magnified. So whether it's the good or the bad, everything's magnified. And I don't know. To me, he's a good player, good dude, and he'll be remembered. I'm curious to kind of see how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah, tough being the guy after the guy. And, of course, being the
sure.
quarterback after Stetson Bennett, two-time national champion. I'll give Carson credit. He waited his turn. He hung around Georgia. He was very vulnerable and open to the media when his time did come. I will say this. He never did anything wrong. He never got in trouble. He never made an ass of himself. He never put the G in a bad light. He won a ton of football games. He led Georgia back. They were down 9 times this season. They won 7 of those games. He did a lot of good things. And to your point, Jake, in this new era, making all this money, driving the Lamborghini, being on the billboards, having the star girlfriend, everything's magnified for good or for bad. And guess what? If you're a quarterback, when things go bad, you're going to take the blame. And when things go well, you're going to get the credit. It's just the way it always is. Is he a DGD? I mean, clearly the jury is still out. He will always be welcome back from terms of Letterman engagements and all the things that come with being a Georgia football legend, which I think, he will be one of them. He won so many games. And of course, he was part of that SEC championship team this year. So interesting talking point for a lot of the fans. If you have a thought, please hit us up on social media at Punt and Pass, or leave a comment on our YouTube page, youtube.com/punt and pass. Fascinating conversation. And I don't think one that's going anywhere, because you might be seeing him next year with this 12-team college football playoff. All right, let's talk about what happened on the field Thursday night and Friday night. We had the college football playoff semifinal games. Before we get to that, again, reminder, this episode of Punt and Pass presented by our awesome partners over at Prize Picks. It is the best time to be on Prize Picks right now. College football national championship game coming up on Monday. How about college basketball? The Hoop Dogs ranked 23rd in the AP poll. First time cracking the top 25 since 2010, Jake. They beat top 10 ranked Kentucky last week. Then they doubled down and they beat top 20 ranked Oklahoma. They're undefeated at Stegman. This week, they go on the road to what was number 1 ranked Tennessee. Now they're number 6. Then they welcome in the number 1 ranked team, Auburn Tigers, to Stegman Coliseum on Saturday. Prize Picks has all your college basketball opportunities. So get in there, use the promo code PUNT. And of course, the NFL playoffs, when you use the promo code PUNT and play your first $5 entry, you get $50 instantly added into your account, win or lose. PrizePicks.com. Check them out on social media at PrizePicks. Use the promo code PUNT. $50 instantly when you play your first $5 entry. So the Orange Bowl was Notre Dame against Penn State. Notre Dame wins on a last-second field goal, 27-24. This game was a snoozer, and then they both woke up in the second half. Turned out to be a really, really good game. Drew Aller with a head-scratching interception, throwing a crossbody, middle of the field, late. Notre Dame gets a great pick. They drive it into field goal range, and Mitch Jeter puts it through. The Fighting Irish win the game. They will be taking on Ohio State. Were you able to watch that game on Thursday night? What are your thoughts? Notre Dame, they just find a way to win, man. That's kind of their MO right now.
Yeah, man, they're finding a way to win. I watched this game, and Penn State scores 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter, and I'm thinking, man, that they got the juice, they got the momentum. There's no way they messed this up. And then Notre Dame comes back and they score, and then Drew Aller gets it and throws the interception, and then Notre Dame kicks the field goal and win. I'm like, man, they just finding a way, just a scrappy, gritty football team finding a way to win football games. You never, as a quarterback, you never want to play the coulda, shoulda, woulda game. Obviously, Drew Aller's interception there at the end is a super critical error. I think back to late in the first quarter, they're driving down inside the 5-yard line, and he's got a nice, easy flat route over to the right. It's a little short, drops it, walk-in touchdown.
Walk-in.
Man, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, especially the low red, is huge in games like this. I can't imagine how the game could have been different had that had been a touchdown instead of a field goal. Obviously, we're talking about Notre Dame going and having to score a touchdown to win that game instead of kicking a field goal.
Right.
Just it changes the entire just concept of the game. But like you said, it is a little slow in the first half. Both offenses they would do some things, and then they would shoot themselves in the foot. A sack, a negative play. But the second half was a lot of fun. It had you on the edge of your seat. This is what college football is all about. Finally, we get a really good game down to the wire. And I think it did its job. It did exactly what you wanted it to do from a college football playoff perspective. Final four, games matter at the very, very end.
Yeah, there's no question about it. With 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, Penn State's win probability was 85.4%.
Wow.
They were up 24-17. They had a 1st and 10 at the Notre Dame 44-yard line. It's just crazy to think that's the situation that they were in. Nicholas Singleton had an amazing game, 117 total yards for Penn State, 3 touchdowns. Riley Leonard, I mean, he had 2 interceptions. Of course, he had his rushing touchdown, which is kind of patented for him. He woke up in the pass game, 223 passing yards and a throwing touchdown as well. But I will say this, Notre Dame, very sound in situational football, and that proves to be the difference in these close games. They closed out the first half with a 41-yard field goal to cap off a 13-play, 52-yard drive. That was huge. It turned out to be absolutely
with the
massive.
backup quarterback in.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, so we talk
shook.
about Penn State's critical errors to lose it. Let's talk about Notre Dame's critical positives to win the game. And that was scoring before halftime with a backup quarterback. Riley Leonard goes down, and then coming out at halftime of walking down the field and scoring a touchdown. 10-point swing before Penn State ever got the ball back. Huge, like you said.
They were down 10-0.
Yeah, I mean, just as far as getting yourself back in that football game, that's what good teams do. They're really good at the little things, just like you were saying, DB.
Talk about in the NFL, just how much emphasis is put on end of half situational football, not just 4-minute, but winning that middle 8. I know we talk about it a lot, and I know it sounds cliche, and I know if you're listening, you're like, oh my gosh, these guys are always talking about it. It's because it makes a massive difference in the outcomes of that game. I mean, Notre Dame's down 10-0. They can't get anything. Their starting quarterback just possibly got knocked out of the game. They fight, scratch, claw, get 3 points on the board. You're able to go into halftime and be like, okay, guys, we have a fighting chance to get back in, or we're in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, these situations are talked about every week ad nauseum. They come up, post Sunday. Maybe a head coach talks about a certain situation early on Wednesday. They're definitely talked about in the QB room with the QB coach, the OC, and the play caller. Hey, what would we have done? What are our calls there? Kind of talking about the situation. They come up, on Saturday during walkthroughs. Just sometimes coach will just throw random situations out, and hey, how does everybody adjust? How does the quarterback adjust to it? How does the OC and the play caller adjust to it? So there's so many different things that go into being ready, being prepared for when these situations kind of hit and arise, because they're all the same. They're all uniquely different at the same time. But man, situational football wins and loses you football games, and it's
100%.
Even magnified more in the NFL.
100%. Notre Dame kicks that field goal. They get the ball back at the start of the second half, and they make an 8-play, 75-yard drive for a touchdown that took up 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Then it's tied 10-10, and you're off to the races. There was 31 total points scored in the fourth quarter. They were trading blows, and of course, Notre Dame kicked a game-winning field goal. Shout out Mitch Jeter. This was the worst field goal kicking team in the country heading into the playoffs. Mitch Jeter certainly looks healthy. And his dad in the stands, a chiropractor, filming the kicks. His dad's got ice in his veins, dude. I know my parents would have been nervous wrecks. That dad was locked in, got it on film, obviously celebrated with the family. So Notre Dame, 14-1, beats Penn State 27-24, finding themselves in the college football playoff national championship game. Of course, that is Monday night in Atlanta against Ohio State, which takes us to Friday night, and it was the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State against Texas. Ohio State was the 8 seed. Texas was the 5 seed, and Ohio State wins 28-17. 14. This game was great. It was going down to the wire. Texas was driving with 2 minutes left, ball on the 1 yard line to tie it up and make this thing super close. Talk me through why you go shotgun and toss sweep so close to the goal line. Of course, then Caleb Downs makes an amazing play. It's like a 6-yard loss, and we know what happens next.
Yeah, let's start with Caleb Downs making the incredible play, hitting the gap and beating the running back to the spot. And let's also talk about, Steve Sarkisian. He's a genius if the play works.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, yes.
Oh man, that's just brilliant. Everybody's packed in tight to the box. Let's pin the edge. Let's pull a guy around and let's beat everybody to the perimeter, right? You see it all the time. It's the two philosophies on short yardage. Hey, are you going to cram it running up the middle and mano them? Just a big guy beating up on a smaller guy, or are you going to try to give them some eye candy and beat them to the perimeter? So that's just the matchup that they thought was best.
Right.
And I think it's just a great player making a great play. Talking about Caleb Downs, I've had a lot of people that I've been talking to lately, say, hey, this was the national championship game right here, Ohio State versus Texas. I mean, talent-wise, you could arguably say it definitely was with how much talent was on that football field, all the NIL money that was put to bringing those guys there. I mean, Caleb Downs, who we've been talking about, great transfer addition to the Ohio State team. Will Howard, quarterback, Quinshon Judkins, running back, who scored a touchdown in this game. So there's so many guys for Ohio State that they brought in, through the transfer portal NIL, who contributed to this monumental win. I'm so curious on how Ohio State fans will feel at the end of this deal, when they, odds are, probably will win a national championship. We'll dive into that matchup on a later episode. But they still lost to Michigan at the end of the year. Is that going to stain this in any small way? Hey, you won a national championship, but you lost to Michigan, and they'll be able to hold that over their heads.
Of course. Talk about a guy like Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer, who sack fumble, 83-yard fumble return for a touchdown, which ended up being absolutely incredible. I mean, one of the more legendary plays that you'll ever see in the history of college football. It kind of reminded me of Keely Ringo's interception return for a touchdown that, of course, won Georgia their first national championship game. But Jack Sawyer is a guy who I believe is 0-4 against Michigan, 0-3 or 0-4 against Michigan. This is the same guy that on the field after the big game was screaming, trying not to cry, saying there's no way I'm going to allow them to plant a flag on our field, which then, of course, brought the huge fight onto the pepper spray, that whole deal. He sack fumbles Quinn Ewers. The ball bounces right into his lap. He cribs it for an 83-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Quinn Ewers was Jack Sawyer's roommate their freshman year at Ohio State. He was Ryan Day's, I believe, first commit to come to Ohio State when Ryan Day got the job. So kind of a full circle moment there. But what I'm saying is, if they win the national championship, what will it look like having lost to Michigan that many years in a row? It will clearly save Ryan Day's job. I would have to say his job is definitely saved at this point with Ohio State making it to the national championship game. But Ohio State, you said they were going to roll. It looked like that could be the case. Texas put up a valiant effort. You're like, how on earth could you not capitalize? It was first and goal from the 1 yard line to tie the game up with 2 minutes left. They, of course, then lose by 14 points. So Ohio State covers. The SEC is dead. The SEC is just poo-poo now, according to a lot of people in the national media. I do find it interesting, though, Jake, how it's Ohio State versus Notre Dame in the national championship game, and all anybody wants to talk about is how the SEC is not there. So if that should tell you anything about how dominant the SEC still is, people love talking about it because they know. Deep down, they know.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like they know who runs this deal. Good time and good win and good job done by Ohio State and Notre Dame getting to this point. And for the college football playoff too, Ohio State being the 8 seed and Notre Dame being the 5 seed in this deal.
6 seed, I believe, but yes.
Yeah. So the product that they're getting, this is kind of what they wanted. They wanted to give more teams opportunities to make late runs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what you got. And
I mean, did you hear Ryan Day after the game? He's like, I'm so grateful for the
right.
new structure because, he and then he goes and talks about something that you and I have talked about on this podcast over the last month and a half or so. Certain losses can really galvanize a team. And that's exactly what that Michigan loss did for Ohio State. It gave them a second life. It really allowed them to kind of refocus and come together. And clearly it is working out. So if you go back in time, you see the first two teams, the 5 and the 6 seed, or sorry, the 6 and the 8 seed. What would have happened if there was a 12-team playoff in years past? Nobody knows. That's a conversation for another day, obviously, but Ohio State takes advantage of it. Travion Henderson had a great day as well, 117 total yards and a touchdown to boot.
You know who was quiet in this game?
Who's that?
Jeremiah Smith.
Oh, man, they locked his ass down.
One catch, 3 yards.
Big credit to Texas. They obviously Notre Dame's going to be studying what they did to limit Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. They're two absolute stud wide receivers. Notre Dame got a nice little amount of time to kind of figure out what they're going to do from a defensive standpoint. Look, they're fast, they're physical, they scream downhill, they love to be violent at the point of attack. I think it's a really good matchup. Vegas is telling you something different. Ohio State's an 8.5-point favorite right now.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy to think, but Ohio State, could this potentially be, with them squeaking by, I will say, Texas? Obviously, that sack fumble was huge. Could this be a situation where Ohio State goes in there and whoops up on Notre Dame, talking 41-14 type situation? Or do you see Notre Dame as putting up a fight, running the ball, grinding it out, being very opportunistic, situational football, and making a game out of this?
Yeah, I see it kind of a blend of those. I see it being kind of a dogfight early, like you saw in the Notre Dame Penn State game. And I just think Ohio State, the way they're playing with the guys that they're playing with, I think they just pulled away late, kind of like they did in this Texas game. It's just going to be so hard to play with those guys for 60 minutes.
Yep.
Great dudes, and obviously a great staff too. Got Chip Kelly up there calling plays.
Yep.
And so they got a good thing going. I wanted to ask you a question while we were kind of talking about the 8 seed and the 6 seed. Is this good for the future of college football? You got 2 transfer quarterbacks playing the national championship game and an 8 seed and a 6 seed. Good or bad?
It's just, it's the new reality. So either get on board or find something else. It's going to continue to happen. The parity due to the transfer portal, there's more of it than ever. It kind of levels the playing field. That's obvious. But I think what's more important, though, is that you have to look towards the NFL model of oftentimes the teams that win the Super Bowl are playing their best football late. They are the healthiest. Like, they get on these rolls and that positive momentum, man. Once you get that train on the tracks, those guys start to believe in the locker room, and it's really tough to beat. And I will say this, both of these teams, Ohio State and Notre Dame, have tons of positive momentum. A lot of good things have been happening for them. They each believe that they can win this game, and the environment in Atlanta should be sick. I'm looking on StubHub right now. The cheapest ticket to get in the building next Monday night, $1,347. It's the most expensive ticket in the history of the college football playoff national championship game. I think Ohio State has the largest alumni base in the country. Notre Dame, you could easily say they're one of the most prestigious alumni bases in the country. Definitely a nationwide fan base there as well. They will converge on Atlanta next Monday. It should be sick. Again, Ohio State, an 8.5-point favorite, 7:30 p.m. kickoff next Monday night, Martin Luther King Day. The total's 45.5. We'll dive into a bunch of that later on this week on Thursday's episode of Punt and Pass to give you a nice little national championship primer, but it'll be a good game. I don't think I'm going to go. I have no intentions of going. I'd like to just sit at home and watch it, as it's only 20 miles from my house or so. But look, Ryan Day's got a lot to play for. Marcus Freeman, I really like Marcus Freeman. I'm a fan of his now, and I've never been a fan of Notre Dame. Without a rooting interest, I'm just going to hope for like quadruple overtime in an amazing game.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I kind of feel my heart rooting for the underdog here in Notre Dame in this one a little bit. But man, both these teams very talented, both deserving. I think it's cool, man. This new model. I wish it was something that I had when I was playing, of just being able to get in the dance, like you said about playing good football late in the year. Man, both these teams have taken their losses. They've come together closer instead of pointing fingers, gotten a lot better, and showed up to respond after that. So, man, a big credit to Ryan Day at Ohio State, taking
huge,
a loss
man.
from Michigan and showing up, pouncing on Tennessee, and just pouncing on Oregon, pouncing on Texas. I think they're going to be tough to beat, man. I really do.
Yep, it's going to be a really, really good game. Couple notes here from producer Spencer. He says both Penn State running backs have announced they are returning. So Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, of course, the horses that really operated and ran that Penn State offense, in addition to Drew Allar, they will be back for the Nittany Lions next year. And Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden declares for the NFL draft. So we'll keep it updated here on Punt and Pass with everything that's going on as Texas and Penn State's season have come to an end. Two left standing in college football. We will break down the national championship game on Thursday's episode of Punt and Pass. Be sure to follow us on social media. We are at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at From Jake. Rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube as well. Massive shout out to our presenting partners, Prize Picks. Yes, download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code PUNT. That's PUNT, PUNT. When you play your first $5 entry, you instantly get $50 into your account, win or lose. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players, project that they will go more or less than their stat projections, and watch the winnings roll in. You can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Again, that's promo code PUNT. First $5 entry, you get $50 instantly into your account. Follow Prize Picks at Prize Picks on social media. Big week for the Lions. Divisional round Saturday night. I believe it's on NBC. And it's the Washington Commanders against the Detroit Lions. Go Lions. We're rooting for you, man.
That's right. Go Lions. Tune into that one. We'll be tuning into this college football national championship as well. I'm pumped, man. Can't wait.
All right. Can't wait either. Everybody have a great week. We will talk to you on Thursday. See ya.
We out.